Thanks everyone for tuning in to this Stardom discussion, a preview of Stardom The Conversion, which takes place on June 21st, 2025. The word conversion itself is associated with alteration, change. And if last year's event was any indication, something within Stardom is bound to change. In 2025, the warrior who dethroned an icon is threatened by an outsider wielding the power of the sun. And two of the three remaining members of Stardom's flagship team will face their toughest challenge yet. A duo with 10 years of experience under their belts. For a show this intriguing, I need the help of someone with a trained eye. So my guest for today is Meerkat Ultra. Meerkat Ultra, how is your day going so far?
Day going well, just trying to stay busy. Excited for the show though.
I really appreciate you being able to take some time out of your busy schedule to cover this show. Since I've talked to you last, there have been a number of giant things that have taken place in the Stardom landscape. We have lost a number of roster members, and some of these factions are looking very skinny, very skimpy, very diminished. And what happens over the next span of time as we get closer and closer to the 5-star GP really makes me start to raise an eyebrow as I look at some of these factions, some of these groups, and looking at some of the wrestlers who might be taking some large steps career-wise towards maybe higher and higher acclaim as we go. But we got to get through this show first. So the first thing I would like to know from you, Meerkat, is now that we have a strong sense of what is going to be featured in this year's card, who the major players are, what the major titles on the line are, what has you most intrigued at this stage as we're going into this show and we have not yet seen how things are going to play out?
Well, just match-wise, 100% the IWGP match between Sareee and Sareee, just because that's just match of the year candidate, like right there and then. Their last match at SYURI'Ism, which is available for free from Sareee's YouTube, by the way. You go to Sareee's YouTube. She's uploaded the full Sareee versus Sareee match from her SYURI'Ism show. Banger, absolutely banger. It's going to be an absolute amazing match. They're both the best wrestlers in the world, really. Like Sareee and Sareee are two at the top of the top. Sareee is like number 2 for me under Mayu. If anybody wants to argue that Sareee is the best wrestler in the world, I won't even argue with them. I would probably even agree with you, because Sareee is just really on fire right now, portraying this final boss, ultra skilled elitist type wrestler who looks down upon the Stardom roster, thinks they're all beneath her, and just finally wants that IWGP title that's been like on her mind and on her radar for a very long time. And this is gonna be great. Absolute great. It's almost a one-match show in a lot of ways, just because there's nothing really major else happening beyond like something like this. There's some title matches, and like there's like a future title match happening as well with like Hina versus Rian, which is gonna be really fun. But ultimately, the only major match is this match right here.
That's an excellent choice of a highlight, and we will talk about this match a little bit more in depth in just a second.
Yeah.
I will throw a hat into the ring on behalf of the tag match, because as I've been doing a preview in my own mind and sort of collecting some notes and thinking about that match, there are some things about it that actually really stand out and have me wondering. Actually. So I think, as you mentioned, the card is a little bit light on really heavy hitting battles, they still have a high potential for some of these top matches for where they can go. And it's just a hope as a fan that they maximize some of that potential. Okay, but you picked just the absolute best place for us to start, which we have to assume is going to be the main event of the conversion. It's going to be hard for them to come up with a match that can really be placed higher than this. So we'll talk about the IWGP Championship match in a little bit further detail. You did a fantastic job setting the table for this, as this will now be Syuri's second title defense. She rushed in, won a little bit at the beginning of this month against Alex Windsor. What I want to start by talking about is the fact that Syuri has already this amazing legacy. After her red belt reign ended at the end of 2022, She had a lot of time to allow herself to recover from those wars that she fought. She got into great physical condition in the year of 2023. And as I'm sure both of us remember quite well, she had an incredible first IWGP battle with Mayu Iwatani in January of 2024, a very standout match for that entire year. Now we're in the midst of what I would call the next string of intense Shuri fights. We saw her fight against Sareee, as you mentioned, in the month of March, a 30-minute time limit draw that was about as hard-hitting as anything we are going to see this year. She had a very resounding, very emotional, and very climactic second battle with Mayu Iwatani at All-Star Grand Queendom in April. And I have not yet seen the Alex Windsor match, but it has received quite a bit of praise. They nearly went to about 30 minutes from what I heard, and it sounded like it was no picnic. It was no walk in the park for Shuri. And there's no way, there's almost 0% of a chance of this follow-up match with Sareee being a walk in the park either. So I want to go back to what I mentioned about last year's event, the conversion for 2024, in which we had a shocking title change that took place at the hands of a wrestler visiting or invading or encroaching upon Stardom from an outside promotion. Now, Sareee is a freelancer. She's not necessarily connected to any one promotion, but she is not a Stardom wrestler. As you already implied, she feels she is above most of the wrestlers in this company. So this is setting the table in some ways, potentially for another outsider to show up and capture a major belt and generate even further intrigue, at shows that might exist or might take place across more than just the one promotion of Stardom. So this kind of raises the question of whether or not Sareee will repeat the same sort of story beat that Mika Iwata did last year. Now, this is not necessarily me making a prediction or asking you to make a prediction, but as you look at where the IWGP belt is right now, where Shuri is in her career, where Sareee is, we know that Sareee is very, very adamant about trying to capture this belt. She made a pretty damn good effort last year. Do you think that there's a chance of this being one of the sort of rattling of the cages or shaking up of things in Stardom that could happen? Could we see this belt being taken from Shuri at the hands of someone who's not only not a part of Stardom, but doesn't seem to really like Stardom all that much?
As good, a little bit too soon, I think. I don't think it's going to happen. I think Shuri will finally get the win over that. It would be amazing though, because I think because Sareee kind of went through this arc a little bit in Marigold when she is their first Crimson Red Belt champion there and was looking down on everybody, and kind of had like a similar arc. It was like the final anime boss that Tommy finally defeated to capture it. It seems like she wants to go in that same direction with the IWGP title and Stardom. I don't see it happening though. I think Shuri will finally defeat her. They are going to be given 60 minutes though, instead of the usual 30. They're getting a full 60 for the title match, which is great because I want them to go if they go 40 minutes, 50 minutes. I go for it. Give me the all-star stubborn Joshi banger that I'm used to seeing from these, and that I miss seeing too. And Sareee can certainly deliver it. Sareee is actually. I was just thinking a bit when you're talking about it, but if Mayu Iwatani is very much like Goku, and Sareee is very much like Vegeta in regards to how serious she is, and how very elitist she can be. The vast difference though is that Sareee gets the job done, while Vegeta quite often does not get the job done because Toriyama famously didn't like Vegeta. So yeah, I think it's gonna be a banger though, and I think she will fail to achieve the IWGP Championship here again. But if she did capture it, it would be a massive surprise, especially because Shuri just literally won it, and it would be quite an interesting arc if she decided to go in that direction. And I would be down for it, obviously, because Sareee will be in Stardom more, destroying everybody. Sareee is very nonchalant and very much the perfect type of boss character to put against anybody. For years now, even in 2020, I was watching a Tomoka and Inaba match versus Sareee, and that was very much a boss match then. So she's always just been perfect for this role. So yeah, I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, I'm leaning very, very slightly towards Shuri successfully defending. Yeah. However, I think a strong case can be made kind of in either direction. Now, the funny thing about the IWGP belt is if we exclude Mayu Iwatani's reign, the going trend between people like Kairi and Mercedes Moné is that the title reigns are actually quite short.
Honestly, yeah.
So that does kind of give you a little bit of pause, but I'm still going to lean slightly Shuri. I will say that if Sareee wins here, I think there's a chance that they're going to try and run this third match between the wrestlers at some point. And if Sareee does not win, I still think in the long term, she will come back around and challenge for this title in a successful effort. But it's just a question of how long, how far away from now that would be. I don't have any clue about that. In hearing you say that this is a 60-minute match, that pretty clearly telegraphs that we will have a conclusion to this match. We will have a winner, and we won't be kind of left hanging yet again.
Unless they go the full 60 minutes.
Maybe that's why there's no red belt or white belt match. They're like, you guys are getting enough of your money's worth.
Jeez.
If anybody can do it, they're on the short list of people that might be able to do it. I got one last question for you regarding this match, which is we've seen a lot of the IWGP just reaching these Olympian heights. We've seen Sareee challenge for this belt against Mayu. We've seen Shuri challenge for this belt twice against Mayu, and we've seen Shuri fight Sareee to a time limit draw. The IWGP title has a lot to live up to. It's a pretty high bar for how good these matches can be. How confident are you that Shuri and Sareee in this iteration of their fight, how confident are you that they can hit that high bar?
Oh, 100%. No doubt in my mind. These are two of the best in the world. It's just no doubt in my mind. Don't even think that would, unless they just have like a massive off day somehow. Even then, I don't think it's even possible with these two. So yeah, no doubt in my mind, it's gonna be a banger. Especially because the IWGP belt is like doesn't really have an identity, really. Honestly, it's just kind of just been there. It was a title for Kairi. It was a title for Mercedes to have for like a good while. Basically, it was basically what it was for. And then Mayu took it and made it something. It was Mayu's belt, Mayu's defenses. It was Mayu who made that belt into something basically with those defenses. And she basically crafted the idea that this belt gets defended in these ultra epic. This is what Stardom is, 100% pure Joshi wrestling type deal. Is how I see these title belts. And I guess if that's all it's for, good. That means you just get great wrestling guaranteed from these title matches. So I hope that they keep that standard basically. And it's only just the highest of highest that you can possibly get, the most stubborn Joshi wrestler you can get. Just bring it back. Yeah, I would like that.
You know what? I apologize, but I actually thought of a follow-up question. I know I said that was the last question.
Yeah,
you said it was a 60-minute match, so we got to spend a little more time covering this as well. Yeah. So that's how that works. So talking about that, like with Mayu's reign, and I know you're a huge fan of Mayu Iwatani, and you study her performance. You study the very numerous aspects of what she does.
I watch her like she's Daniel Day-Lewis, basically.
There you go. So you're the perfect person to ask this question. With her title defenses, I noticed a lot of storytelling of her having to play the underdog and overcome these unlikely challenges. And she played that so well because she's one of the best sellers out there. And she can emote in these very rarely seen ways. And the way she can sell the pain, the way she can sell her body being in a struggle, being trapped, being caught in these precarious situations is something that makes her so great. What do you think will either be similar or different about how Shuri goes about taking on the role of IWGP champion and structuring her matches? Do you think she will also have to fight from underneath a lot of the time? Or do you think she will try and craft these types of battles in a different sense?
Honestly, I expect war with Shuri. Like I see her and she's and she herself is an actual working actress, like an actual one. She's theater trained and that's where she came from. So like which is wild actually. So which is why she's so good when she does comedy, because she can just step into it and step right back into being just really serious. She's really good at that. So that's all I expect from her. Is I really do expect for this to be pure absolute pure wrestling. Honestly, there's two people in there, there's a title in the ring, the goal, the stakes is winning, basically. Who's the better woman, basically. And Shuri has a very similar, like straight to the point style matchups too. So it's just two. That's what I say. It's just two stubborn wrestlers just colliding, and that's kind of what I expect. I don't really expect like underdog building and having to rise up beneath. I kind of just expect almost right away fire, 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 just constant fire, fire, and so lots of submission spots too as well. But like lots of fire, fire, fire. I expect.
It's hard to beat that. You can't get much better than that. Now we've got a number of other things that we're also looking towards that will be building up the card on the way to that main event. This is maybe a little cruel for me to toss this off to you because I am aware that the tag scene in Stardom and pretty much anywhere else is not your very, very favorite thing to be watching or to be discussing. But we do have a rather standout Goddess of Stardom title match between Gori, Hanan and Iida, and Natsupoi and Saori Anou of Cosmic Angels, who are fresh off of their very successful and very theatrical 10-year anniversary show. They've decided, now that they've been able to celebrate and reflect on their careers in such a well-crafted way, that they want to return to their former glory. They want to try and claim the Goddess of Stardom titles, which are titles that they never officially lost within a match. These are titles that had to be vacated in the year 2023 when Natsupoi, along with just about everyone else on the roster, fell to some injury. Now that we're looking at this match, the first thing I want to bring up is I'm just trying to see if it's at all possible. Is there something that could happen in this match or something that these wrestlers could bring to the table that could somehow, some way reinvigorate your interest or your curiosity about the tag scene in Stardom, or is it purely a lost cause at this point?
I gotta clarify. It's not the Stardom tag scene. It's just the genre of tag team wrestling in general. I think just the style of it. It's never been my favorite, even though like it was the Hardy Boys that got me interested into wrestling. It's kind of like weird. But I've always just kind of just preferred watching, like especially with like Japanese wrestling, just singles matches because I feel like you just get more out of it, especially more out of the performance. I say that though, and that's not even true though, because some of the best like Joshi matches, especially Joshi matches last year, were tag team matches. You know, even in American wrestling, there's a ton of good tag team matches. So I don't know why I keep on harping on like tag team wrestling in this very way, but it's just like when it comes to preference, I guess it's just singles matches, and then a little bit under that is tag team matches, and then under that it'd be like 6-man tag team matches. I guess the more you add to it, you know, the more bodies you add to a tag team match, the less interested I get. But like, so yeah, I'm still like interested in this one only because I actually think Sareee or Natsu and Saori were gonna probably win it. It seems like it. It just seems like if they're gonna have a title change, it's probably gonna be this one, which will be, even though Gori's been on like a heck of a run, and especially Iida over there has just been really, really rising up to the challenge. But yeah, I can see Natsu and Saori. I can see Natsu. Sorry, I just keep seeing Poi's face. I can see Natsu and Saori winning this.
You might be onto something. I mentioned the 10-year anniversary show. Mm-hmm. And how well that went over. The attendance was very impressive for a show of that kind. And Stardom is very much paying attention to who has the crowd support, who has the momentum within their company. And they are not afraid to execute a game plan based on that information. So this seems like Stardom may, in fact, as you said, want to leverage that recent success, the stature of both of these wrestlers who have been popular for quite a while. This is not some surprise that, you know, that their show went over so well, but they might want to leverage the status that Natsu and Saori have and put these belts on them. Now, if they do that, I do personally feel a little worried about where Iida in particular might go from here. I don't know what her personal 2025 prospects might end up being if they go that direction, but Stardom may want Hanan to come out of this as a strong contender for things like the 5-star GP, or a stronger contender for the singles belts in Stardom, the white belt, possibly even the red belt. So that might be a reason to move the belts from Gori to Natsupoi and Saori Anou from here. The positioning of Hanan right now is actually quite interesting because in a story sense, I do think it would make sense if Hanan not only loses the belts here, but she is the person that loses the match for her team. And I'll get to that in just a second. So the most recent thing that happened, like the reason this match came about, is because there was a Korakuen Hall show just very recently on June 8th, and Natsupoi was involved. She was teamed up with Aya Sakura and Sayaka Kurara, and they were facing the full Stars roster, all three of those badasses. They may be small in number, but their power level is through the roof. And that featured a closing stretch between Natsupoi and Saya Iida, in which Natsupoi was the victor. So I'm suspecting for this tag match to play out at the conversion, we're going to get some major closing stretch that will either be between Saori Anou and Saya Iida, or more likely, perhaps, will involve Hanan to some degree. Now, if Hanan is the one that loses this match for the team, this will play into a longer form story of her decline. She's the one that's been struggling to hold Stars together and to try and step up and be their new leader. She has had this just inability to reconcile with Hazuki, and she's the one that's been taking a lot of recent losses. Most recently, she was pinned by Saya Kamitani in the month of May, and a day before that, she was submitted by Shuri. She's also been pinned by Natsuko Tora. That was back in April, but it wasn't that long ago. So this could be a way to position Hanan in essentially her lowest place, kind of the end of Act 2. She's at this very dark point in her story, and she's got to somehow find a way to step into an arena such as the 5-star GP and have some sort of ascendance, some sort of ascension from there, and maybe furthers the underdog story that has been so powerful for Hanan in the past. Now, at the same time, I want to play a little bit of Stars advocate, because Gori is kind of one of the primary teams out there that it would make sense to allow to have one of these longer tag team reigns. They work so well, and they've been pretty well placed by Stardom into a lot of different arenas that have built them up. They had a huge presence in the trip to America, where they wrestled as Gori in places like Dragon Gate, in both of the Stardom shows. And they've done traveling. They were featured in the Natsupoi and Saori Anou anniversary show, where they fought to a draw with Starbomb, Starlight Kid, and Azumi. So that could have been a precursor or a foreshadowing of another tag team title defense. So they're in a really good spot if you wanted to keep the belts on a particular team for a longer run. But as you said, and as we kind of see as the elephant in the room, this show is called The Conversion. So I don't know if you can get away with having that title and not change some belts around. So this is one of those major candidates for a potential shakeup, if we want to call it that. I just kind of wonder, where does Saya Iida go? I feel like I have a clearer sense of where Hanan goes, but do you have any ideas for that? I know you're a fan of Saya Iida, so can you see like what her next moves could be if this is their last stand here?
Man, I don't know, honestly. I think you're right, because unfortunately, this is what happens when like tag teams lose. You know, one will always be a little bit more seen, a little bit more than the other one, and that's always kind of been the case with Iida. Unfortunately, I hope she gets more opportunities, and I mean, she'll always be a part of Stars, I imagine, and teaming up unless they want to do some crazy shakeup. You know, but I'd rather not try to predict any crazy shakeups that they want to do. But I don't know. I've always wondered. I'm glad she got to win the Goddess belts and like at least showcase a lot more what she can do, because she's definitely been like improving a lot. But it's very unfortunate. Maybe she gets some title shots. That'd be some nice, you know, like a white belt shot or something. But that's really as high as the ceiling can go for her at the moment, unfortunately. And I maybe she can get featured more and get some more wins in the GP if she's featured. That'd be great. But yeah, that's kind of unfortunate. I do see Hanan being like the more obvious biggest story, obviously, because she is the young leader just taking over from the legendary leader. So naturally, it's going to be some massive growing pains, and it's a good story in that sense. And especially if you can take your time with it, because she is young still learning a lot and still getting better and better. So yeah, I think your suspicions might be more correct. Yeah, and I can definitely see like I can definitely see like not I can definitely see like Saori Anou like rolling up Hana with the Potter in or something like that and gets caught, or like fairy magic gets her or something. But yeah,
Well, I've got some more suspicions to throw on to the pile for the story surrounding this match in particular, this tag match. So let's do just a real quick time travel back to the year 2024. A wrestler that did a lot that year, Saya Kamitani herself, formerly of Queen's Quest. In 2024, Saya Kamitani lost the leader of her faction, Utami Hayashishita. She lost a huge component of the Queen's Quest faction when 4 of the members broke apart. And she was in this very dramatic, desperate place. She lost the high-speed title that she had claimed that year, and she was left with almost nothing going into the 5-star until that huge character change took place, until the feathers turned black. Hanan this year has lost the leader of her faction in Mayu Iwatani, a huge sort of defining subset of stars broke apart in FWC. And with just this very small dwindling contingent of stars members and these belts, Hanan is starting to get into a place where she's got precious little left to cling on to. So I'm kind of puzzled. I'm kind of inquisitive about how much they will actually strip away from the stars faction. Last year, when Queen's Quest was vulnerable, it served the company and promotional purpose of actually disbanding the group altogether, this legacy group that goes back many, many years in Stardom's history, so that they might repurpose and bring about some identity changes for this company. So I guess my question is, how far do you think Stardom's going to go with stripping down stars, stripping down Hanan, possibly even engineering something that will ultimately dissolve this group altogether? Or do you think this is something that will be preserved for the sake of legacy and for the long term?
Man, they could possibly do it. They can probably get rid of stars. That'd be nuts. I can see them doing it though, because there's only 3 of them, and that's poor Komomo. Poor Komomo. No one's thinking about Komomo. She's just over there. Unless they decide to add all the rookies right now are currently like in other faction. Oh my god, that it could actually happen. Actually, that's actually interesting to think about because because FWC is gone. If they decide to just completely dismantle stars, then the prophecy that I've always said can finally come true, and Hanan, Hina, and Rina can just form their own faction and dominate all of Stardom. That would be amazing. Finally, the 3 sisters. Honestly, I don't know. Honestly, I can see them doing it though. It seems like Okada's perfectly fine with rebranding Stardom, which is fine. It is a new era. Things move on, and besides, Mayu Iwatani was stars, so it's you can argue that it's gone already anyway. So I can see them just rebranding it all together, even if the 3 of them just stay together as like Hanan, Iida, and Komomo, and they add like another person or 2 other people, or Micah comes back or whatever. It doesn't matter. They just rebrand it and change the name to something else. I can see them doing that actually, and just sticking to being the ultra babyface group, because you still got to have that anyways. You still got to have a unit be the young upstart team of like heroes, basically.
Yeah, it's almost like they need to bring the youth and the future of Stardom up a little bit higher, which is perfectly setting us up for our Future of Stardom title match, which will take place between Hina of God's Eye, who will be attempting her 3rd successful title defense, against none other than Rian of EXV. Rian has just been able to achieve her very first victory in all of Stardom, in all of her career. June 8th at Korakuen Hall, Rian's first win coming against Akira Kurogane of Mi Vida Loca. And the stipulation of the match was that the winner would be granted a title shot. This is Rian's very, very first title shot. She did compete in the Goddess of Stardom Tag League last year, and she has about a year and a little bit of change on top of that. But what she does have, she lacks the wins, she lacks the accolades, she lacks the major big match experiences. But what she does seem to have is the crowd really getting behind her. She's also got wrestlers like Natsupoi and Saori Anou who have taken up an interest in Rian. They featured her in their 10th anniversary show. They've had these moments with her inside of the ring, backstage. They're building character connections with her, and the crowd is building a connection with her. This is probably the least likely challenger of any of the challengers at this show to even have any chance of winning. But I don't think that is the major point that we will take away from this show. This is an opportunity for Rian to step onto a larger stage, to take part in a bigger, more meaningful type of match where more is available to a performer. And this is a chance for Hina to take up the position of that boss level type of role. This is a chance for Hina to start to build the stature of her title reign and to look down on someone to a degree, but in a way that actually ultimately builds both of the wrestlers up by the time the dust has settled. Now, I know that you've at least seen Rian's work at the Cinderella press conference, downing cans of beer. I don't know how much you've been following her career otherwise, but what has you, if anything, intrigued about this match? And what are you hoping these two wrestlers will be able to accomplish?
Yeah, when it comes to Rian, yeah, it's mostly for me, it's just a meme because she's like Stone Cold Rian for me. Like, my God, here comes Stone Cold Rian. She's gonna march down there. She's gonna go into that ring and stare Hina in her beady eyes and give her a Stone Cold Stunner. Oh man,
she does have a stunner, by the way. She is one of the rare wrestlers that not only does she have a stunner, she also has a cutter. So she will grab you by the neck and just rain down hell from there.
You have to know. You have to know that the memes.
I mean, it would be hard not to know now that you mention it. But yeah, she does have a stunner. It's pretty damn impactful.
Oh my God, that's amazing. Yeah, but beyond that, I haven't seen too much of her work. I've seen a little bit of her work, but not too much of her work. The interesting thing about, like, you say she's been there for about a year and some change, and that sounds like it's not a lot of time, right? Like, she's still like a rookie. And in Joshi, yeah, she's still a rookie, but when I looked at her cage match, that's over 144 matches that she's had in her career since she started in Stardom. And not to pick on her, but she's like an easy target though. But Anna Jay, I went and looked up Anna Jay's entire career, 144 matches. So so Rian's had almost as much matches as Anna Jay's entire career. That's just how Joshi wrestling works. That's how Stardom works. They're just constantly wrestling. So that's why it's so good within like one single year. That's why Sayaka Carrara in like one single year was just like a noticeable difference. So I'm pretty excited to see. I'm excited to see it actually because it's a title match. It's a more serious effort, more emotion we put into it, more fire. It's a chance for Rian to just showcase herself, introduce herself to the world. Basically, it's the conversion and convert the world into knowing who Rian is. Basically, who am I? Be the best Rian that's out there, which is not going to be that hard because a lot of people hate that Rian guy who made that Star Wars movie. So just do it. And Hina is going to be great too because like she's clearly going to win. So this is just going to be an opportunity for Hina to just be a champion. This is who I am as a champion. This is my poise. This is my strength. This is everything. And it's great. It's gonna be great. If this was wrestling, this match is an enhancement match, but this is Joshi wrestling, so it's a chance for the other character to show who they are, basically. And even just an 8-minute time limit is enough to get that across, basically, in Stardom type of wrestling. So yeah, it'll be kind of interesting.
What we're going to get into next is a bit more of speculation, I guess we'll say, because we have the return of someone who has been absent from World Wonder Ring Stardom for quite some time, well over a year at this stage. And she is going to be joining her God's Eye faction mates to take on a rather tough first challenge. The faction known as Hate, Harass, Abuse, Terrorize, Eradicate. We have Ami Sareee returning, and I need to correct myself. Her last match was actually in July of 2024. So we're almost coming up at 1 year of her absence. Now, she has been performing the role of commentator for a lot of the big Stardom pay-per-views. She has been in the mix. She has been slowly but surely training more and more alongside the rest of God's Eye to get in position for this. But now she's here, and there's a few things to look at with this match. This is a match at a show called The Conversion that has both Saya Kamitani and Momo Watanabe involved. So very possibly there could be a darker turn to the story. Whenever Hate is in the mix and whenever Momo Watanabe has that baseball bat that could hit just about anyone, you can't count out just about any specific outcome. But bringing this back to Ami Sourei, before we start to get into the weeds of speculating and things, I'm just going to refresh everyone's memory about her accomplishments in Stardom. Ami Sourei is a former Future of Stardom champion, a former Goddess of Stardom champion, and a former Artist of Stardom champion. Not only was she part of the runner-up team for the Triangle Derby in 2023, she was part of the winning team for the Triangle Derby in 2024, and she herself was the runner-up in the Cinderella tournament of 2024. She has also challenged Saya Kamitani and Saori Anou, respectively, for the Wonder of Stardom Championship. So this is someone that had been the beneficiary of pretty strong booking overall. And in my estimation, Stardom absolutely did have her in mind as someone to become more and more of a force of nature with those tournament results, with those title results. Obviously, whatever plans may have existed had to change due to just the unfortunate reality of her injury. Now that she is here, and we've seen God's Eye change up their lineup here and there, we've seen the leader of God's Eye become the IWGP champion, and one of the youngest members of God's Eye become Future of Stardom champion. We have to start to wonder about Ami Sourei's place, not only in this faction, but in the larger Stardom lineup altogether. So is there something that you are looking forward to with her return? Is there something that you have sort of questions about? Please just take it away.
Well, I'm glad she's back. I mean, I'm happy that she's able to come back and wrestle and do things that she wants to do. She's always been someone like Ami Sourei has always been someone who's been like, kind of flying under the radar for me and how I watched, and like she's never been like a strong contender for someone who's like wowed me and stuff in terms of but she has that powerhouse style that I do like that style, but she's always been like, I always looked at like the other wrestlers who had that style a little bit more than Ame, I would say. I can't say she's ever like gave a performance that made me go like wow stuff, you know. But that's also because I haven't been like solely focused on really watching though and giving it the time and attention that she probably deserves more. And so that it could just be like an issue on my end of not seeing the right thing or not paying attention enough. I can absolutely accept that. So if there is something that I missed on Ami Sourei, then I'm more than welcome to hear it. I'll be excited to see how she performs though, because every wrestler who comes back from injury, it's always interesting to see just how much rust maybe they might have, just how well they can do it, or maybe they even perform even better than they've ever performed ever before, and that injury just sparked something. You know, I don't know. I'm curious to see though, so it'll be interesting to see what it is. And facing H.A.T.E would be a nice one to do because there's just some nice stakes to that, and they can take advantage of that basically, and it'll be nice.
Yeah, there's a couple of things I want to bring up about Ami's return. Mm-hmm. One of them definitely does pertain to the H.A.T.E faction. But firstly, I want to talk about the timing of this return. Having her come back at Stardom the Conversion, this is well before, or, you know, maybe not well before. This is about a month and a half before the 5-star GP is going to be starting. Alternately, Stardom could have opted to just bring Ami back at the offset of the 5-star, which would have maximized some of the genuine intrigue surrounding her as a competitor in that tournament. How strong will she be in whatever block or, you know, subsection of that tournament she ended up starting in? So it has me wondering about a couple different variables. So one thing that could be the case is that Stardom is just bringing Ami Sourei back in as soon as possible, as soon as she's cleared, as soon as she's showing whatever they needed her to show to indicate that she's ready to go, that they're just green lighting this and bringing her back in. They also could just be giving her some time to get back into sort of fighting shape and, you know, as you were mentioning, to get some of that rust cleared out so that she's in good condition to potentially be a competitor in the 5-star. Or they could be giving us some kind of angle with her that they need to build from this point forward, whether it ends up dealing with this 5-star or dealing with something else. So looking at the people involved in the match itself, we've got a God's Eye versus H.A.T.E 4-on-4. There's not a lot for us to work with, but we do know that really the only title holder in this match is Saya Kamitani. So it's possible that this match could lead to Ami Sourei challenging Saya Kamitani for the red belts. That could happen as soon as their Sapporo rendezvous show in July.
Yeah.
So that's something they could do. However, that's not my favorite option. Sorry, please go ahead.
No, sorry, I was just saying that's very possible when you mentioned that. Yeah, but go ahead.
It's very possible, and it's not a terrible choice, but I feel like it in some ways would burn up the inherent intrigue that Ami has, like in a very quick manner.
True.
It would kind of just be throwing her to Saya Kamitani, who is going to beat her and send her home packing.
Basically feeding her or something.
A bit, yeah. And I also almost in a way don't like it for Saya Kamitani either, because the Sapporo Rendezvous shows of last year were substantial moment for Saya Kamitani. That was the moment of her heel turn. So I feel like doing something a little bit bigger, something a little bit more story heavy for Saya Kamitani would be a more fitting choice. Now, there are a couple of other things that could happen from here. This is a match at the conversion that involves Momo Watanabe and Saya Kamitani. Momo Watanabe was brought back just a few days ago, and that could be a deliberate choice as well to put her into this show. Momo Watanabe had a huge part to play in last year's conversion where she did this sort of double agent double turn. We thought for just a few minutes that Momo Watanabe would be turning face in the Oedo Tai versus Queen's Quest match, and then she flipped the script on us and turned heel all over again and destroyed Queen's Quest ultimately, or was the catalyst that would lead to the destruction of Queen's Quest. So they brought her back and positioned her in this match, and she's gone through pretty much all of this year and a little bit of last year, swinging her baseball bat with reckless abandon, and many of those instances hitting the wrong targets and causing problems for her faction. So I say all that just to say that there is the potential for this match to somehow generate additional tension between Saya Kamitani and Momo Watanabe, based on what the two of them went through last year as sort of a precursor.
Yeah.
There is also possibly the chance of Konami using this match against her former faction, God's Eye, to build towards an eventual showdown with Shuri once again. They tried to really have that rivalry, or that feud, I guess I should say. They tried to set that up for last year's Dream Queendom, and they didn't get to conclude it the way that they had wanted. So it's possible they might be looking to have Konami be an eventual challenger for IWGP. So I could kind of see that being something as well. Do any of those strike you as being likely? Or maybe if they did do it, it seems like it would be an interesting way to take this. My main fear is that this is just going to be a return match for Ami Sourei. She gets a win over, I don't know who it would be, probably Rina or Konami, and then they don't do anything from there. It's just that's all they had in mind. So, but is there something that could come out of this that you think would be a good way to go, or something that seems like a probable outcome?
Yeah, totally. The best possible outcome that can actually happen from this is Saki Kashima pinning our dear old world champion, Saya Kamitani, and then suddenly getting a red belt match, and now she has to face Saya Kamitani. First off, Saya Kamitani hasn't defeated Saki Kashima since last year's. She hasn't gotten her revenge. Saki Kashima defeated Saya Kamitani in the middle of her big double run, basically, me becoming the guy that completely stopped it because of Saki Kashima. You can't, you just can't do it, So I can see it happening. Like, yeah, I totally, that's the best possible. But no, actually, I hope something happens with Momo. That's the big one, really, is that, like, even if they don't do an angle, maybe like soon, maybe they could set something up, like some tension or something that would be nice. And then eventually Momo can leave. Even I know Momo's challenging for the strong belt against Azumi, and she's all Black Peach and being all evil again, because that's just very much Momo. But like, still, I would very much like the pieces for Momo to leave and do something, start her own faction or something. She really needs it at this point, because it's the only way that she's ever going to be given the top of the top prize for anything if she doesn't just leave and start her own faction, basically. So that's what I hope happens.
In some ways, I'm a little bummed out that she issued that declaration that she wants to challenge Azumi for the New Japan Strong Belt. It's going to be amazing. They have such great in-ring chemistry. They're both super talented. So it's going to be a fantastic match. But long-term, what it means for Momo's career is probably that she's just going to lose another title challenge, and we will rinse, wash, and repeat from there. So I absolutely agree with us getting so close to the 5-star. Saya Kamitani being at the top of this company right now, and there being no real clear challengers to her throne. The fact that Momo Watanabe is this is almost a cosmetic thing, but she's 25 in the year 2025, and she's had all of these mishaps within H.A.T E, and no one's really called her out on it. No one's really stepped up and said anything about it, but they keep doing it over and over again. The match where they lost the goddess belts.
Like, their tolerance is so weird in H.A.T E. It's like when it's like Starlight Kid can just make a tiny blip, and it's like, bye, Starlight Kid, but Momo can just like, oh no, I like her. Type of thing is so weird.
Yeah, but it's also one of those things that if they do just suddenly spaz out on her and jump her, we all will know why. It won't be that non sequitur that it was with Starlight Kid. We will realize, well, she probably was pissing them off just without them saying anything for a real long time. It's hard to anticipate like heavy swerves and these real just jarring jump scares, but Stardom did a lot of that last year at about this point in time, right before the 5-star GP. And it seemed to have worked in a way in drumming up anticipation for that tournament. So I can't just forget that any of that happened. And so I just have this sense that they could do something really, really, really jarring. At least with Momo, we kind of feel like this has been in the cards for a while. The fact that there's no red belt match at this show in some ways could be a bit of like a yellow flag or that's kind of odd. Why is that?
Yeah, you're
right. Let's just keep our eyes on this match. Like I said, worst case scenario is that, it's just a let's get Ami Sourei a win and everybody just goes backstage. Exactly. So, that's about as low as it can get in terms of rich storytelling, but it could go pretty high, and it could get pretty intense and eventful. So as we're starting to wind down this conversation, I do have just a sort of two-pronged question for you about the conversion, which is fairly straightforward, I hope. In looking at the show, the title matches that are on the line, the returns or the appearances that are being made, I'm curious what you think Stardom needs to do with this show in order for it to be considered a success. And as we've talked about the possible surprises, the sort of nebulous uncertainty about whether or not very much will in fact change within Stardom as this show concludes, what do you think is the most likely thing that will stand out as a surprising element? Whether it's a certain performance of a wrestler or it's a certain match, either over delivering or taking a different approach than one we might expect. What do you think needs to happen for the conversion to be a 2 thumbs up great show in 2025? And what will surprise the people watching it?
And to just be a success, it just got to deliver great matches like any wrestling show, I would say. For me, I'm very hyped for Sareee versus Syuri for the main for what I'm assuming is the main event title. So that's the one I'm really looking forward to, and I just need that to be a banger, which it will be. And I'm very much looking forward to that. And if that is a worthy match of the year candidate, which has a high likely of being, then it's a success for me in that regard. It's just for that one match, because I can definitely do it. That being said, though, I do think that tag team match has the potential to be like a really like solid banger beyond like even my expectations of it, just because of the competitors involved, especially because Natsupoi's in there too, and Soriano as well, like two of my favorites, but Natsupoi especially is continuously someone who is, even by my own standards in my own YouTube channel, underrated. It's kind of crazy how I even myself, I constantly underrate Natsupoi because she's legitimately one of the best in the world. So like it's gonna probably be like a surprise in that regard, just because I'm not expecting that. I also hope Rian surprises the crap out of me too. Like I wanted to go out there and just completely just show like some complete fighting spirit that I've never seen before and be like, wow, crazy. That would be great too. If anything happens with Momo and Saya, that'd be great too. If anything, that would be great. I'm not expecting it though. So beyond that, I see this as just being a solid Stardom wrestling show, basically, and with some strong performances. So that's what we'll probably get.
All right. Well, there is a lot that is unaccounted for when it comes to Stardom, the conversion. There are still many question marks floating around, which may have answers and may not have answers, which makes it even more complex and puzzling to think about. But there is a guarantee that the quality of combatants is very, very high at this show, whether more matches are added, whether this is what we have to work with for this event. There is a lot to look forward to, and there will be a lot to talk about afterwards. However, the stories play out, there will be more discussion to be had. So I will thank you very much for participating in this discussion and sharing many great insights. Meerkat Ultra, can you please let the listeners know where they can find you, what you're up to, and who you are?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, Meerkat Ultra on YouTube. I cover Joshi wrestling often in just absurd, humorous, very silly ways. I use a different voice. Usually it's a little bit more wacky. And then sometimes I also just do some really serious video essays that are kind of like more normal, I would say. Like I just released a video essay on the Inaba sisters, Tomoka Inaba and Aza Inaba, and their kind of career and sort of their sibling sort of rivalry around the themes of sisterhood, basically. And that's how I kind of approach content. Sometimes I make these video essays. They usually have a theme to it, and sometimes they're serious, or sometimes they're really, really, really stupid. It really depends on what I'm covering, and you often will not know what it is that I'm going to give you. It's how I kind of like it. So you can always check me out on YouTube here, Meerkat Ultra, or you can check me out on Twitter as well if you'd like. And currently, I am just playing Elden Ring Night Ring instead of making content. I really need to get back to making content. So I don't know exactly what's coming up. I do have ideas, so just keep on watching. I do review AEW every week. So tomorrow, Thursday, whenever this comes out, it'll be out already. So yeah, just check it out. Thank you.
All right, everyone. No matter what conversions await the world of Stardom, please stay tuned in. Please keep your eyes focused on the inner workings of this wrestling promotion. For now, we are going to sign off and say thank you, everyone, for watching.
Thank you.